and welcome back to my channel, where I'm going to cover additional customization options for the Paladin class that were introduced in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. As I have stated before, D&D is a role-playing game, and the overall idea is that while you're playing your character, you're taking on their persona and acting as they would. The customizations we will be covering in this video allow you to enhance your playing experience for the Paladin class by giving you additional avenues to customize your character and provide more detail about them. D&D does this in a very prompt, friendly way by providing you some examples that you can make use of directly or using them to creatively come up with your own ideas. The Paladin customizations, though, include things like personal goals, symbols, and a means to define your character's nemesis. With the introduction of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, there are some new tables that provide these examples and potential points of inspiration that you can make use of to add these details to your character. And the easiest way to gain access to these tables is to simply open up the classes options, scroll down until you see Xanathar's Guide to the Paladin class sheet, pop that open, and your tables will be right here. So let's go ahead and move on to showing you what each of these tables actually represent. The first table is called Personal Goals, and it allows you to define something that your character hopes to achieve in their lifetime, or something that they can remain true to during their entire adventuring career. The 6 options presented as part of this table are what I would consider to be the most common options for a Paladin, though there are others, and I would not hesitate to ask a player creating a Paladin character to choose one of these versus creating their own goals, though that is also an option that they could take. I would also argue that this would tie directly into a Paladin's ideals and complements the background's ideal itself, so the two should be reasonably aligned if you're going to make use of this particular customization option. As such, I would suggest the best place to store this information is within the Ideals field of the character's note sheet. So you go to Notes and then just simply select your Ideal section here. I would then recommend blending that personal goal with the background's ideal so that you can come up with that unified concept that would be associated with your character. Thus, when you come back to play your character again, you'll be able to ideally quickly reference this particular section of your note sheet, read through it briefly, remember how you were supposed to portray your character, especially if your group meets very infrequently. The next customization is called a symbol, and this is essentially the crest your character has on their tenants, their armor, and or their shields. Now the crest itself can be used to represent many things as well as to portray many things. And depending on the design of that particular crest, it can be used to instill fear while on the battlefield or as a representation of trust for anyone who really doesn't have the need to fear your particular character. Chances are people are going to trust someone who happens to have a beast representation that typically is aligned with honor or with peace, things like that. Whereas if you have a crest that is more warlike or more beast-like in a monster's perspective, chances are you're not going to get a whole lot of trust, but you might instill fear into somebody's psyche, if you will, as you go through and engage them in battle. And another option as well is that you could take one of these concepts and either use it directly or blend it into your own general idea of what you want to have for a crest. And if you're artistically inclined and able to do so, create a graphical image for it. That way you can share it with other players, or you can have it tied onto something that represents your overall armor, and that crest is there, or a shield, or whatever it is that you plan on putting it on. And I state that because then it's up to the DM to be able to go ahead and share that around to the other players if they want to be able to have a look at that crest. Now, the last customization is called a Nemesis, and this is what you as a player can make use of to essentially create an ideal enemy for yourself. And the default options here are quite good as they are now, but I do feel that there is really an endless array of options here that you as a player can come up with. A Nemesis themselves, however, gives you the means to create a backstory for a creature that you feel your character has essentially gone to war with. It can be someone a character knows, something that is operating out of the shadows, so it's a bit vague, or any other combination that you can think of. And keep in mind, the more information that you can provide about this particular creature or character, the better the chances are that a DM will pick up on that and potentially use it in a portion of their campaign, or even root a campaign around it. I have seen DMs start a given quest based off the concept that the Paladin has given them for their Nemesis, and move them through those backstories and other stories that interlink into many other campaigns in the process with very good results. But I've also seen it where it can throw the entire party off track, so don't expect an inexperienced DM to have the skills yet to be able to make use of the extra bit of information, or the extra story piece, if you will, at least not right off. In this case, the notes field of the character's note sheet would be the best location for this, as you're not really describing anything specific to your character, but it's more around someone who poses your particular character overall. More detailed information here would potentially be found in the information sheet of the NPC if the DM decides to actually take this and pick it up and add it to their story element. So they're going to expand on what information you provide there. Now, in all three cases, regardless of whether you're choosing the personal goal, the symbol, or even the Nemesis, you can either make use of this option up here to roll on it, look them over to make use of these as sort of inspirational designs that you can then expand upon, or even create your own based off of, things like that. But when it goes to actually adding it into your sheet there, just simply drag and drop it if you're just going to pick one, or roll a dice and then drag and drop that in, depending on how you want that to work, etc., etc. So you can see that I just dropped it at the end of that particular sentence and then threw it there. So it's very easy the way that Fantasy Grounds allows you to go through and quickly add this information onto your sheet without really you doing a whole lot of typing if you don't want to expand upon what's actually there. But the Paladin, in my mind, already requires a player to be very conscious of their decisions, primarily if they decide not to break their Paladin oath in the process of playing their character throughout their adventuring career. However, these tables provide an additional structured way in which a player can add these very story elements that will keep them on the track that they had planned, while still adding a bit of a mystery, or the potential for it, if you will, to their character. For instance, a player could work with the Dungeon Master to create a crest that contains many clues given to that character's past. Additionally, it could also include a number of plot-based Easter eggs that might be associated with the campaign that they're currently going through, or even the Paladin's Nemesis, if there is one that has been created around that particular plot. So you can see how defining even just a small symbol will actually help you, the player, as well as the Dungeon Master, create an entire story arc that could potentially be very engaging, if you will, for the entire party, or even just your character, or to even include you more into the overall campaign that's going on. But that does bring us to the end of this particular video, and I want to thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful and informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.